Woo! Happy halfway to Halloween, everyone! It's almost spooky time, and I'm so excited that I'm just going to ignore the fact that halfway to Halloween is actually supposed to be in April because, 12 months in a year. November, December, January, February, March, April, that's 6, but woo! It's spooky season! But with the scariest thing in our world slowly but surely getting under control, and Halloween Horror Nights haven't already been announced as happening, excuse me while I knock on all the wood in my house. I'm Chris from Orlando, and I'm gonna be fantasy imagineering. Yes, I know that Universal's version should be fantasy art and design, but that's not as catchy. This year's Halloween Horror Nights. And before we begin, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more spooktacular videos. I actually want to address the killer clown in the room first, and that's this. What you're seeing is the speculation map for this year's HHN. Last year, Universal was still very much planning on having a full-blown event, because who actually would have thought that Coruscant Virus would still be here a year plus later? They were casting scare actors, including yours truly, and all the houses were built and signed off on. They used some of the houses in a small event during October, and the rest is just sat there for probable use this year because, well, you already spent all that money, why not just keep things as is? Universal has already announced Beetlejuice and Puppet Theater Captive Audience, so it's safe to assume most, if not all, of what's on this map will remain the same. However, I'm going to put forward my own ideals for this event. Yeah, some of them will line up with what's going on in this map, but I'll try to be as creative as possible. So let's get to it. 10 houses, 5 scare zones, 2 shows, a roaming gang of chainsaw enthusiasts, and a dead partridge in a burning tree. Let's go! Starting from when you first enter the park, we'll be heading to the Avenue of the Stars, and I'm calling this area The Streets Run Red. Scare zones are one of the most underrated parts of HHN every year, so I think it's fitting if we give them an area where we look back on some of the best. It might be hard to get a nice blend without having anything clash, but if we style each section of the street to a different year, it could work. I want to see neon and scarecrow stillwalkers, drowned soldiers, the Terra Queen. Heck, you can even throw in some Purgers and Walking Dead as tribute to when those franchises took over the event for a few years. We stand scare zones on this channel. We now come to our first house, and the house at this location is usually the mainstream draw for the event. The Shining, Stranger Things, Ghostbusters, whatever gets the casual audience through the gate is what's going here. With that in mind, I'll just say, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice! I've wanted him to have his own house ever since I started going to the event, and yeah, for sure this year we're getting it. You can have a lot of fun with the people you meet in the underworld, Deo scene. Beetlejuice has a lot of different looks you can use, and yes, most of this was kind of used during that weird 2 days when the house was actually open last year, but one thing that was missing, and that's a giant sandworm puppet! You get that in, lean a bit more on the comedy, and we'll have a winner for sure. Our next house, I'm calling Jack Presents 30 Years of Terror and Dread. This is your anniversary house, but basically a combination of some of the most iconic scenes and creatures from HHN's long history. There'll be rooms dedicated to the likes of HR Blood and Guts, Havoc Dogs of War, Scarecrow the Reaping, Nightingale, Scary Tale, so you could get HHN Bear in there. A thrilling look back on why we love HHN. Another IP house next, I have Freddy vs. Jason. Not exactly the movie, but these two titans of horror are so intertwined, it makes sense to have them share a house and compete with each other to see who comes out on top. Have the two recreate some of the most iconic kills from their movies, with Freddy bantering the whole time. Have Freddy get the upper hand and actually kill Jason at one point, only for him to come back as Space Jason! Because I want to see Freddy just mocking the living hell out of that. Have the final showdown happen with no one, least of all the guests, surviving. Finally, in this front section of the park, I would have The Director Presents Hollywood backlot gore. Very simple one this. Have the house look like a soundstage, if only Universal had some of those lying around, as the director takes you behind the screams of his various films. Have each part of the film making process be corrupted and twisted in some sort of way. Go through a makeup room where the corpses are made to look very pretty. Have a scare actor pop out and try to scream, but they can't because her mouth was sewn shut because the director is making a silent film. Because this will be on a soundstage, you could probably have a cool high-flying set piece that eventually goes wrong too. And cut! Our next scare zone in the New York area, and admittedly this was not a fully formed idea, but I think it'd still be cool. The Lost Boys. Vampires are always easy to do, and people enjoy themselves a cult classic, so this could be a fun zone. And if I'm being honest, the whole point of this scare zone is so that we could get that sax concert scene from the movie featured throughout the night. I still believe! We're moving to the San Francisco area next, and while nothing is as scary as how bad the Fast and the Furious ride is, we'll give it a shot. Now, out of everything here, this is the longest of long shots, but it's fantasy imagineering, so who cares? I'm pitching The Dark Mind of Stephen King. Pennywise, Carrie White, Jack Torrance, Annie Wilkes, Christine. It's a small area, but you could pack a lot of characters into it. And these are some of the most iconic around. We reached Fear Factor, so now we have our first show. And I think you'll agree with me that there's really only one option. With Universal cutting ties with Academy of Villains after a series of allegations, and the old Rocky Horror Picture Show not even allowing any kind of callbacks during the show, which is stupid. The only thing left is to bring back Bill and Ted. While I can forever brag that I was at the very last ever show of Bill and Ted, there's no denying that HHN surely misses it. The show wasn't always good, but it's a fan favorite. And after the year we've had, they have had a lot of material to work with. So get to it, boys. Be excellent to each other. Our next house is The Storyteller Presents Cary, Ohio, Horrific Origins. For some reason, a lot of HHN houses and scare zones take place in Cary, Ohio. Makes sense. Look at the place. I would go on a rampage if I lived there. But in terms of HHN's long and complicated lore, why is it like this? I can think of no one better to tell us than our favorite murder granny. While waiting in line, they can set up a cue video about all the past events of Cary with the storyteller, who's in front of the house, occasionally reading the beginning of the story. Inside, we could explore through an old town that gradually is corrupted by whatever evil force lingers in Cary, driving people insane, to join a cult, just die, or some combination of three. Next on our loop, we have The Usher Presents Slaughter Cinema 2. Okay, this one is just for me because The Usher is my favorite icon, hence Slaughter Cinema is my favorite house. The Usher is a huge fan of horror movies, so it stands to reason that he'd be well versed in the weird slasher films that occupy this house. This entry wouldn't feel complete without some B-movie ideas, so here we go. Who's the Dummy Now? About a killer ventriloquist. Cthulhu mummies, where they unearth an ancient Egyptian tomb, but oh no, the mummies have tentacles now. Robot wizards from Venus. I'm just looking at my copy of Smash Up for ideas now. You get the picture. Alright, our final tent is going to be The Thing. I think in terms of switching up settings in order to make things stand out, turning one of the tents into an Arctic outpost is a great idea. Keep that thing as cold as possible as you navigate the Among Us prequel. Puppets, man, just think of the puppets we can have in this house. I know we've had The Thing houses in HHN before, but it's been a decade, so just imagine the leaps art and design have made since then. Moving through the Simpsons area, this is where our chainsaw drill team is at, and of course, since this is an anniversary year, we have to theme it after Eddie and his game show Run. Normally, just having the chainsaws out and about is enough, but I think it would be cool if there were a couple different challenges that the chainsaws could partake in order to keep things interesting. For example, let's say a guest is walking by a distance marker. They're looking at it and wondering what it's for. When someone comes up from behind them and scares them, send them running. Congratulations, you sent them running scared for 10 feet. A winner is you. Have fun with it. Next house is Halloween Kills. Yeah, we're doing some promotion here, but hey, at least the Halloween reboot was pretty good. And its sequel, Halloween Kills, coming out this year during the event. It would make sense to have something promoted. Just have scenes from the new films, like Myers attacking the podcasters in the bathroom, or attacking Laurie's stronghold. I mean, it's Michael Myers. You can't really go wrong with it. Except the house based on Halloween 4 they had a few years ago. That one was pretty poor. Right next door, we'll have the legendary truth, the Caretaker's Estate. This is as close to a classic haunted house as you'll get at HHN. Legendary Truth is a group of paranormal investigators who, naturally, are quite interested in the Caretaker's Estate. Have the investigation begin very quietly, but as you go deeper into the house, you catch the attention of the caretaker and his family. You'll have the caretaker and a series of maniacs attacking you in each of the Gothic-style rooms. You'll go through one room that's oddly on fire, only to find out it's Cindy's room. Eventually, you'll try to escape through the tunnels under the house, with many once-buried secrets coming to life. Essentially, this is an updated version of Scream House. If I could only pitch one of these ideas to Universal, it would be this scare zone in the Central Park area, the Salem Sisterhood. Like seriously, how has Universal never touched the Salem witch trials? This zone would be what would happen if all those poor women the Pilgrims murdered actually had supernatural powers. Namely murder. Witches running around, pilgrims with a bunch of occult imagery painted on them, recreations of some of the quote-unquote tests that they used to test witches, only now turned against the people of Salem. And with spooky lanterns decorating the trees surrounding the area, I think this could be a fan favorite if done well. Right across from Mel's Die-In, we have another show, and come on, it's an anniversary year. Send in the clowns! Jack the Clown is the face of HHN, so having his Carnival of Carnage return is a must. Plus, I would have Chance be in the show, but I would sow some seeds of dissension in the ranks for an idea I have for next year's event, which I'll only do if this video does well, so make sure you like and subscribe if you want to see what I have planned for that. Our final house at Shrek will be Candyman. While I was tempted to make a Chainsaw Massacre house here in order to complete the Mount Rushmore of horror's greatest killers, I instead tried to think of a killer who hasn't appeared at the event yet, and Landyman, a Candyman. Cabrini Green's secret altars to the killer would make an excellent set for the house, with Tony Todd ASMRing all throughout the house to keep you entranced between jump scares. The final scene would involve the massive fire scene at the end of the movie, and the ghost of Helen jumping out for one final scare. Our final scare zone is our Icons area, a place where everyone can interact with their favorite characters from the past. And Lady Luck. The likes of Caretaker, Storyteller, Director, Usher, and Chance have their own stage to perform their signature kills. Jack has his own show, he'll be fine, the Diva. And roaming around the area, you can have Fear, the Crypt Keeper, Bloody Mary if you can get the rights. Sure, Lady Luck I guess. But also have minions for each of the main icons near their respective stage, like they're freaking Batman villains or something, with each of them trying to recruit guests to their side for what's to come next year. And that's my pitch for Halloween Horror Nights 2021. What do you think? What horror movies would you like to see at HHN? Leave them in the comments down below. And don't forget to hit that like and share button for more fantasy imagineering and theme park videos. I'm Chris from Orlando, and I feel like I'm forgetting something. Bet y'all thought I was gonna put in a jump scare, didn't you? Take care, y'all. One love. Don't hurt nobody.